And we are live. It is Wednesday night. It is What the Show time. Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined by two of the best internet co-hosts in the world. We have Justin the Juice. How are you doing tonight, Justin?
Fantastic. Just I got back from late last night from like one of my first times going to the movie theater since COVID, just because life's been so busy. I've been wanting to go see different movies. I saw Suicide Squad on HBO Max, but I realized being on Bobby G's show that I just missed Black Widow. I just had not seen Black Widow. I forgot that it even came out. So last night, went and saw The Green Knight and Black Widow, a little double feature.
Nice.
Pretty good, pretty solid time.
Dude, I we're gonna hear more on it, and we're gonna talk about everything because there's no topic tonight.
Oh yeah,
There's no topic because we have Mike Deacon here on time.
I'm actually on time we're late, but I'm on time. This is rare.
Yes.
Yeah. We're gonna have some fun tonight. We got an awesome first time guest of the show. Before we get into that, we do have our Streamlabs. I also just posted a link in the chat as well. Any donation to our Streamlabs are going to go directly to the link that I posted. So anybody who wants to donate, if you want to donate and make a comment to us tonight, that's fine. Everything that we have is going to go to the other link, so you're free to go direct. Dear friend of my family who I grew up with recently had two emergency brain surgeries. So they've got a GoFundMe set up to help him not only pay for the medical costs, but everything that's going to follow with this, because this is going to be a long process going on right now. So this is for Zachary Schimmel, who grew up down the road from me. His mother was at my wedding. So, longtime family friend. Anybody who can donate anything, I don't care what it is, $1, $5, $20, whatever it is. If you donate it to us, we'll read your comments and everything, and it'll go on the air. But feel free to use the link that I posted myself in the chat as well. It would be very much appreciated. So, But with that in mind, though, let's get into the. We're gonna have some fun tonight. So we do have somebody who I mentioned has never been on the show before. Somebody who's deserved a night off because he's one of the hardest working people in the biz, and we're gonna have some fun tonight. Let's bring out our friend Eric, better known as Nerd Chronic.
Eric, how we doing tonight?
Hey guys, thank you for having me.
Very excited to have you, man.
Yeah, it's funny that you say it's my night off because I was literally like working as we were like chatting right now. Get set up.
You're editing 4 matches, none of which can tell us about. That's the night off. So anybody who somehow finds this channel who doesn't know what the Schmodown is. Movie Trivia Schmodown is a professional movie trivia league in which there's WWE style promos, which are expertly written or expertly directed by this gentleman over here, and it's highly competitive. And there's, well, I mean, we all know Schmo. Let's not bullshit this.
If they're watching this show, they probably know the Schmo.
Yeah, everybody who's watching this knows what the Schmo is. Let's face it, we're not kidding ourselves. So, Eric, how have you been? What's been going on in your life?
Good. Yeah, everything's been going well. As you said, we've been working for the Schmodown, and it's been very busy lately. Trying to get everything back up and running with our live matches that we've been taping. We just had this past week the big Cantina match between Ethan Irwin and Dan Murrell, which I believe is live now, so everyone should know the results. So we have a few more of those in the can that are going to be coming out soon that we filmed this past weekend or 2 weekends ago, and we have more coming up. We have more we're filming this Saturday, which, if you're not aware, anyone watching, we do have a few tickets left. If you want to go see that in person, live at the Cantina, that's going to Villainy Cantina in downtown LA, actually Hollywood, LA. And it's been crazy. I mean, it's been fun getting everything back in order, because I'm really happy that we've managed to keep the show sustainable over the last year and a half through digital matches, but being back in studio with like an audience and like the crowd and like the actual flow of like a regular match, it is night and day. And like I really appreciate being back in that format.
I was going to ask, like, Scum and Villainy obviously has a real cool aesthetic to it, which is very different than the Collider Studio. How has the difference of filming there versus the Collider Studio been for you?
I mean, it's an adjustment because it's like it's not our proprietary spot to film in. We're renting it from the FCL Star Wars champion JC Reifenberg, who is a really cool guy, and I know from the conversation we had with him, he loved having us there. We love being there. So like we're really happy to keep that relationship going, and but like the logistics of like filming there has been a learning curve, but in like the best way possible, because like we have like it's uncharted territory. We have like a fun time figuring out like where the camera's going to go, how's it going to look here, like how's this best going to look. For me personally, I was there with a camera graciously provided by Skybound, so I could like film like some of that slow motion B-roll for some of the stuff that is happening in the matches, which I'm desperately needed. And I was having a really fun time being back in that position, like trying to find like the best angles, trying to find the best ways to capture everyone's like big moments. And the layout of the cantina itself is like took a little bit of time to figure out like how we can shoot it so everyone can see it properly, especially the fans that are there in person. And luckily it worked out pretty well. Like the crew that we had there know what they're doing. Like my buddy Dwayne Burke was kind of like this awesome on that. Like he's a very tech savvy guy. He definitely knows the up and downs of what we need for the show to get up and running in that format. And so it was good. It was a good experience. And I was watching backstage with PJ Campbell. We had like a little monitor back there for us in the trenches to keep tabs on everything. But it was a really fun time.
So you mentioned him. Why don't we do our earliest plug ever? Since it's your week off this week, your day off. Next week it's going to be PJ's week off, so he's going to be on our show next week as well. So we're trying to get everybody. Maybe we'll have to bring Dwayne on as well. So we have everybody who's the behind the scenes people.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
So we'll have some. Yeah. Have a good time. Yeah, well, I'll hit up Dwayne actually after this too. But yeah, PJ is going to be on the show next week. I'm very excited. I've gotten to become friends with PJ over the past year. He's such a great dude and so smart about everything. Yeah. His knowledge, like if he actually was to compete, I know he on a surface level, you put him in a free for all, he would kill it.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, and I don't know. When you were mentioning like the new experiences with filming the cantina, like even. Harloff on his AMA on Facebook today was mentioning how like it's not really feasible to do like teams matches there, and how like this league that's been so established for 8 years is still really learning and growing. And it's kind of, I think as a fan, it's really awesome for us to be part of this ride with you guys and see how it's growing in its future. So I was a huge fan of like Kevin Smith's weekly podcast, the Fat Man Beyond thing that they film at the cantina, and I've seen a lot of cantina angles from that. So when it became a thing that he mentioned that, I was like, oh, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's the being there and again figuring out the angles and like how it's going to look was again exciting, and it's not feasible for teams like you said, and so I don't think it's like obviously like a long-term solution to what we need. The goal is always to find our own like studio space to shoot in, to live in, that we can have like at our disposal anytime we need to shoot any matches, with teams, exhibitions, like whatever. And it's fun, not fun, but it's important to keep in mind that the show itself is like still in its infancy. Like even though we've been on for like 8 years now, it's like still growing to like the level that it like aspires to be. It's not even at its peak where like we want it where it's at. Like we still need like to do this and that here and there, and we have like all these like, really big ambitions to grow the show to be like this like really big production. And like this last year has really stifled that, unfortunately, but like we luckily have had like a really good partnership with Skybound, who's like been a like very good foundation to us, and I've really appreciated their help from my work over the last year, just helping me like wrangle everything with all these like digital footage we've been getting for everyone. And so I think once we're back in studio, like an actual studio space to get like what we want going with like the matches for the future, it's gonna like grow exponentially, because like we're finally gonna get like the traction that we've wanted for the last like 2.5 years, moving from the Collider studio.
Yeah. Well, and it's like even basketball. It took 5 years until it really became a pro contract thing. Yeah, so I mean, as it's growing, it's great. Yeah. Real quick, guys, we do have some Streamlabs donations. A couple that are going to that cause. By the way, Mike, if you can pin the GoFundMe or our Streamlabs, either one in the chat, but our first donation was from $5 from Shug Knight 323. Just want to show some love to Mike, AJ, and of course the Juice. But I'm here for some Nerd Chronic. Mike, thoughts for your friend? Thanks for the support, Shug. And then we got a donation from Nicolas Cage.
Oh wow,
$20 saying, "Did you guys see my new trailer?" And that's the best Nicolas Cage I got at the moment.
That's very good. Wow. That's pretty good.
So, yeah,
he's a big fan of the show.
This was the highlight of my week, by the way. Was the trailer that released today for I can't remember the name of this movie for how much I'm excited for it. The Prisoners of Ghostland.
First things first, though, we have a question for Nerdtronic from one PG.
So Peggy.
Yeah. Thanks, Peggy. I mean, this is my little nook, my small area. It's like a corner of my living room with my computer and my desktop and TV behind me. I multitask with I'm currently looking at you guys through a laptop, a MacBook, and then I have a desktop, a PC that I use for like higher end like work next to me with a monitor right here. And it's like my source of light at the moment. It's like shining on me. But like once, like I said earlier, or I haven't said this publicly, but Video Drew and I are slowly moving equipment and stuff into the new guest room that we have for because our roommate recently moved out. We decided to just keep that as a guest room for visiting competitors and friends and family, and then also turn that into a small media space so we can start streaming from there. So soon I'm gonna move like this stuff in there, and I'll have like a nice setup with like some the typical streamer looks, like some nice lights and a better camera and such. This is the mic though. This is the mic that I bought to test out tonight.
Yeah, and sounds good. Yes, it's been sounding amazing on our end. Yeah. Let us know in the chat if it's been sounding great on your end as well. Yeah. So Prisoners of Ghostland. Holy shit. This is the new Nicolas Cage movie. Now, for me, Nicolas Cage is having the best 2021 in film, probably of any other actor. Like, with Willy's Wonderland being just like a theme park ride that when it's done, it's goofy and fun and it's a little action oriented, and you want to do it again. It's not the greatest movie, but it's fun. And then Pig having some of the best male-oriented performances ever. It's a movie that is literally haunting. Prisoners of Ghostland. Do you guys know the general premise of this?
I literally have no idea what it is.
So it's a sukiyaki Western Django inspired film that has a similar plot line to it's like a mishmash of Escape from New York and Big Trouble in Little China, like put together, but it's 57-year-old Nicolas Cage instead of Kurt Russell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now, one of us was supposed to pull up the trailer, so we might do a reaction to it. And I think it was supposed to be me, but do you have it?
Justin? No, I got it. I have it ready.
All right, if you want to pull it up. You guys want to check this out with us?
Yes, I do. I still haven't seen Pig yet, by the way. I still have not yet seen Pig.
Pig is fantastic.
Got to see it.
Yeah, that's how I've heard.
We're not going to spoil it for you, but
yeah.
I'm going to start it as an audio check.
Oh, we got French in the chat? Sorry.
What's up, Fresh? Did you guys hear that, though?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right.
My granddaughter has been lost to us. I would have her return to me post-haste. And you, sir.
The fact that it's Nick Cage.
are the
So
man
makes
to
this.
do the job. Each arm is equipped with an explosive device. Your trousers are also equipped with explosives.
Yes. There's exploding balls, cause we're talking over this just so we don't get
lies a
taken
highway
down.
where evil reigns.
What is this?
At the end of 5 days, if you have not returned with Bernice, well, I think you get the idea, son. Godspeed.
This is the Ghostland, a land of no escape. We are not the ones who hold her captive.
It's been 2 days, and still she is missing.
How do I get out of here?
Must surrender to
Okay. Okay.
Some of my favorite poll quotes, yeah.
Make it rain, baby.
I am radioactive.
No one escapes the Ghostland. No one!
That's the best of it for me, using Nicolas Cage's own comment.
For a poll quote.
And for those who don't know, that's our copyright strike of the week, which we
Yes.
pretty much do on a weekly basis now.
Yeah, I mean that looks fantastic actually. The aesthetic particularly looks, I mean, I love the look of it. I love the the kind of gaudy look of the explosives and the set design and everything. I think it looks really fun.
And it knows what it is.
Yeah.
Which for something like that, that's important. If you're gonna go that direction, if you know what you are, it's fantastic. You either have to know what you are or completely don't know what you are for it to be entertaining. If you're completely off the mark, you might get something wildly different than The Room. But
yeah.
It's fun. It's always the mediocre one. It's like, I don't want it to be boring. Don't be in the middle of the road. Either just go bonkers or go I have no idea what I'm doing and make it entertaining.
I would say The Sorcerer's Apprentice is a better movie than Jiu-Jitsu. I'd much rather watch Jiu-Jitsu.
Right.
Yeah. It's no, I love it. It reminds me of I guess the kind of tone of it and the directorial kind of visual style, or at least the way the trailers are edited. It reminds me of a movie from I think it was 2013ish to 14 maybe. It's called Why Don't You Play in Hell? It's a Japanese film. It's about a couple of film students who are hired by the Yakuza to film a movie that they want to put on. And it's kind of a dark comedy. It has very flamboyant, looking imagery, and it's very fun and poppy. And it's a dark, it looks very stylish. And, you guys should definitely check it out if you have a chance.
It's from the same director.
Oh, really? Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, Sion Sono is
this is adding up.
This Japanese grindhouse director that makes some of the craziest outside concepts that don't really even catch on with Japanese culture, but have this that grindhouse quality where there's something pulpy and addictive about it that should be mass market. He's kind of a badass. I was researching him a little bit earlier today, and I remember seeing that on streaming somewhere for that one. But he's got a lot of crazy stuff out there.
Yeah. Nick Cage just looks like the perfect guy to get involved with for him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's sweet. That's my favorite part of doing this show is all these obscure movies that our guests bring up that we get to watch.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And it's always interesting because we've brought in so many different people from so many for the most part it's mostly Schmodown people, but everybody has their different tastes and stuff like that. So we're hearing different people bringing up very, very different movies that for the most part, I've never heard of a lot of them, and just the variety of different stuff we've been exposed to has been really cool. Like last week we had the movie guys on. AJ came up with this idea. We watched the movie Collision. And none of us, I had never heard of the movie. And everyone's like, well, we're going to recap Collision. We're going to recap Collision. And AJ's like, we're going to recap Collision, but not the one everyone's expecting. And then the movie guys jumped on board. And it was actually pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
The movie was better than I thought it was going to be.
It was it was kind of like a slightly more like direct to DVD action oriented version of Lifeboat, the Hitchcock movie. You know that one? Yeah, the kind of the stranded and banded together kind of thing, but everybody kind of double crosses each other. Similar concept, but very much a Frank Grillo and Jamie Alexander movie. It's a great time. It's a great time. A guy in 2014 is addicted to his BlackBerry. iPhones were present, but it's a plot point that he's addicted to his BlackBerry. It's so good. It's so good.
I think Adam Witt liked it more than you did too, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I gotta say, over the last year, I've definitely been exposed to like a lot of new films that I definitely probably would never watched by myself since like Video Drew's been here. Especially like all the David Lynch stuff and everything. Like I think the most unique experience was watching Inland Empire like for the first time with her, and I did not know that was like a 3.5 hour movie. so like we started and it's like the first or like 45 minutes of just like kind of this abstract imagery. I'm like, all right, like I can see this going on for another 30 minutes or so, and then I look at the time, I was like, oh god, okay, we're here for another 2 hours.
And there's times where it seems like it should just like reach its natural conclusion, but it builds upon itself, and then
yeah. But that was fun, a fun experience, because I shortly before that, I see like a month or two before, we had just finished watching Twin Peaks, which I had never seen for the first time. So she's obviously like a diehard David Lynch fan, a big Twin Peaks fan, and I watched the series for the first time. I finished it, and that set up a lot of like through lines I was able to like appreciate in Inland Empire in his work. A lot of the same kind of like concepts he was playing with, and like we are pretty sure our like in-world fan theories, like watching it was like we think that Inland Empire actually takes place in like the Twin Peaks universe, and so it's like a bunch of stuff like that we just love really like picking apart when we watch these movies.
Yeah. Nice.
Like Twin Peaks, like when did that originally came on the air? Like early to mid 90s? Is that correct?
Early 90s,
early 90s,
yeah, like 90, 91.
Yeah.
I never finished it. My friend and I watched like 4 years ago, like the first 5-6 episodes, and it was just revolution. It was game changing, the best. And then I just ended up never finishing it. But oh man, Brother Lomas, that might be a first. Has he ever been in the chat before?
Whoa, Brother Lomas is here?
Brother Lomas.
Hello.
I have some of the congregation wine.
Yes. Sacramento.
Oh, we'll be busting out the wine.
We'll bless ourselves Michigan.
Oh man. No, one of my biggest regrets was when I was going to school in Chicago. I had the opportunity to go see like a midnight, like weird, obscure movie house showing of Mulholland Drive at like a late night, and I didn't do it.
Fun.
It was probably only like $5 too, but like for whatever reason, I just didn't pull the trigger. And
Drew would love that.
Oh man, that's
she was her mind for that, wouldn't she?
Yeah. I mean, Twin Peaks was like it was fantastic. I really liked it. I mean, there's stuff in it that's like very Lynchian in a way. You're like it's like silly. It's silly, but because it's his like very distinct and like dedicated and consistent style, like you appreciate like this is just how he sees things, and like the way like she explained like his style of filmmaking to me like was very succinct. It was that David Lynch is not someone who is interested in like making like films. He's interested in making art installations that happen to be film, and so he just wants to make things that are art to him, and that comes in the form of like moving pictures, and so it doesn't really have to like fit like the same kind of structure and tropes and structures of like what we think for what a film needs to be. And so he'll just make it however he wants. And so when I kind of wrap my mind around that, watching Twin Peaks and then getting into The Return, the third season that they came back with many years later, that is when everything kind of clicked. And I really just like kind of like let it wash over me. And there's one episode in particular in the Return that she had really hyped up, and I think it lived up to the hype. It's just like this super like crazy abstract like episode of like that's kind of like tells the origin of like that world and like how like things kind of like came to be in that universe, and it's a very cool episode.
Oh, was David Lynch just as involved in that the Return show?
He was specifically involved with The Return in the sense that he only came back if they gave him like full creative control over that season.
Okay.
And so that one is like much weirder and much like kind of more Lynchian than the first two seasons, because like the first season was him and Mark Frost together. Then like when the studio made him wrap up the mystery in the first like 10 episodes of the second season, he is like, all right, like I don't really want to be involved with this anymore. So like Mark Frost took over, he left, and he kind of like walked away from it, and he came back and directed the last episode of season 2, which kind of left on a cliffhanger, and like it tied everything back together to I guess what his original vision was. So then like 20 years later or so, he came back for The Return, and that's when he said like, I want full creative control. You can't tell me what I can and can't do. So like, fine, just do it. Like, well, you can have whatever you want, and you definitely get some of like the weirdest, like most batshit like character stuff in it to like enjoy for like 18 episodes, I think it is. Yeah, it's very Lynch once you watch that Return series, and but it's a good ride. It's a fun experience to just kind of like look into like this is how he sees the world as it should be.
Right.
Yeah.
Sweet. Anytime that you can get any sort of actually like peek inside the mind of David Lynch, I think that we stray further and further from God. But when you're mentioning his filmmaking process and how he views like art and his creation process, there's actually something that I've seen as a parallel. Actually, almost in like an internet meme culture kind of way, with experiencing his works, and actually how I experience some Shyamalan works. And it's that you put the film on black and white and you silence it, and then you put on a hip hop album, like for example, Shyamalan and The Last Airbender. You put on Wu-Tang Clan, and most Wu-Tang Clan like will sync up to the movie and enhance the experience. I don't know, I've heard of people doing that with the 84 Dune, and even with like Blue Velvet, with throwing on like a soundtrack and silencing out the movie to see the isolation.
Yeah.
And then seeing how it's experienced without the visual as a radio play. Yeah. And how those things work and how you can experience this art form. Like it's really kind of, it's weird that I can draw parallels for those two filmmakers, but it's like the one thing that really works for both of them for me.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Jake.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's funny too. So we also went through like a handful of like most of Shyamalan stuff over the last year or two, because she hadn't seen. She actually, I don't think, ever saw The Village up until like last year.
That's an experience.
Yeah, and then she never saw like the other subsequent ones, like Lady in the Water. She does like The Visit. She had seen Split and Glass and Unbreakable and like some of the Sixth Sense, obviously the big ones. Right. But some of these other ones that got like this more divisive reception, she never watched. And so she actually enjoyed both of them. And I enjoy those movies too. Like I think there's a lot of like stuff that's just like kind of technically and structurally wrong with Lady in the Water, but I do think like the kind of broad concepts that they want to use in it works. And it's funny because like we also, like you said, AJ, she was watching Lady in the Water, and she said this feels like very like Lynchian, like the way the characters have these like really unique quirks and the way they like serve a purpose like via those quirks in it. And like there's like this world just kind of like exists in its own like kind of like little like a pattern of like what you expect like a story to like play out as. Even like Bob Balaban in that movie being like the kind of like the vocal narration of like what the exposition is for the movie. So she really enjoyed that stuff.
Just real quick.
Yeah.
Brother Loma is saying The Village was 20 minutes away from being a great movie. It was the 20 minutes The Village that didn't have religious dogma. That's the part. But yeah, it really is. And like, okay, my first time I saw Lady in the Water, by the way, the theater that I was at sent they got sent the assembly cut, so no effects finished. The boom mic was in every shot, and I thought that this was like about the process of being a storyteller, and that was like what M. Night Shyamalan wanted the movie to be.
Yeah.
And I thought that for like 10 years because I never watched it again.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool seeing like hearing about somebody's new perspective of Lady in the Water. So just had to throw that.
Yeah. No, I actually really like The Village. I still like it to this day. Even with the ending, I take the ending, in stride of like what it does for the whole story. And I understand people's like qualms with it, but to me, I think the biggest issue is just like it opens up too many questions. It like makes you think like too much about like the logistics of the world and like kind of like what the twist at the end means. Whereas like the first 2 acts are like I think like masterfully like set up with like the tension and like the mythos and like the characterization of what they're doing. I think it's all like very well done. Like I love so many scenes in that movie, and the dialogue is like so strong between like Joaquin Phoenix and Bryce Dallas Howard. Like their chemistry I think is very good, and like the small scenes that they have together. It reminds me a lot of like again like Joaquin Phoenix in Signs, like the small scenes he has with Mel Gibson in that movie. I think like he really carries his dialogue very well. I can tell like M. Night is this guy who puts a lot of like thought into the world that he's like showing to us. Like I think he has like more behind the curtain of like what he's like showing. It's like the tip of the iceberg type thing. And so like when I go back and watch that movie, I am very invested in that world of like what's going on with those characters. And also it's just like super stacked with like people that you like you wouldn't recognize now, but like back then they were like nobody.
Right.
Well, Bryce Dallas Howard in Shyamalan movies, that's a whole thing in and of itself, because like I didn't recognize her by name until she was in Arrested Development. And then I realized like I had the Shyamalan twist moment of she's been here this entire time.
Yeah. Yep. She was Bryce Dallas Howard the whole time. Yeah.
So good.
The thing about so here's what's going on with the Shyamalan thing is like I am a like half defender of The Happening, whereas like because The Happening is definitely his worst film. Like it is like and it's like it is a bad movie because it's just like poorly made. It's like
After Earth, but it's entertaining.
After Earth at least has like After Earth has the like value of like a big production blockbuster like type of like aesthetic, or like I don't know if it's not his shtick, but like The Happening has like awkward cinematography, like awkward acting, like awkward dialogue, like just like really kind of like almost like like the first like pass of like everything in that movie. And but the thing is like the concept in The Happening, people conflate the tree stuff with like what it's like actually supposed to kind of hit home with. Whereas like so in the movie, the tree thing where they say like the trees, like it might be the plants, it might be the foliage around us, like that's like making people kill themselves. That is exposition given to us by the assumption of like a kind of like hippie conspiracy theorist. So it's like this supposed to be purposefully this one man's like perspective on like what he thinks is happening. Like he is not like the go-to guy, like the scientist, like telling us like what this actually is.
It's not the reliable narrator.
This is his belief on like what it is, and it's purposefully supposed to be like what like the idea of like people reasoning with like what I think this is. The strength in like the concept of the movie to me is always at the end when they say like we don't know like what happened, like we don't know why this happened, and we'll never know. And to me, that's like the most like the terrifying thing, because like if that happened in the real world, where literally like thousands of people just killed themselves one day, and we never knew why, and we never figured out a reason for it, it would be like terrifying. Because like we as like human beings have a very hard time grasping with like things that just don't have reasons to it, like that don't have answers. Like you can like attribute to like it happened because of this, happened because of this person, they did this, like this thing happened here. Like when that stuff is not there, like we freak out like a lot. And so again, to have this global like kind of pandemic of like people just offering themselves over a day and a half, like that would be like mind melting to have people just like try to go back to normal with like no reason as to why that happened.
So, Eric, what I believe you're saying is get vaccinated.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What the show and Eric both just said, get vaccinated.
Yes, please.
And that's the message of the habit.
Yeah. Yeah. And despite I Am Legend, yeah, you have to get vaccinated with all that. Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I Am Legend is kind of like not that, but we'll get to that too.
Yeah.
that might be an entirely separate podcast.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Because I know that's in the air now with people talking about that movie because of everything going on.
Why?
Yeah. Although I will say, even when this started happening like 3-4 months ago, people started trying to say like, remember I Am Legend when like
they had those terrible CGI dogs.
Yeah.
How do you trust science when those terrible CGI dogs exist?
Yeah, like they had vaccinations for like cancer, and then ended up making zombies, and like this happened in like 2020, guys. And I was like, no, it didn't. Like I literally went back and watched the movie, and that movie did not take place in 2020. So don't like at least if you're gonna like make up some sort of like conspiracy theory about like a movie, don't get the date wrong of like the actual movie.
What year is it? Isn't it like sooner?
I think so, because it's only like a year or like 2 years after the events of like the opening like prologue of the film, and it is not, the math does not add up to 2020. It
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah.
People vamp while I look this up.
Yeah, I looked it up when I was trying to look at that meme, but now everyone's like trying to attribute it to like this like warning like about vaccinations will make us all into zombies like in 2 years from now. And but then in that timeline we also had Batman vs Superman on the marquee in Times Square, so I guess some things were accurate.
I concur on this.
Yeah.
Batman So speaking of Batman versus Superman, what's the angriest you've ever been after watching a movie?
The angriest I've ever been? That's a good question.
Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
No,
By the way, apparently the novel is written in 1954 and takes place in the 70s in Los Angeles.
Okay, so not even close.
I don't know what the film is, but
yeah, so it's supposed to be in the 70s, so we should be long dead.
Yeah.
I've told my Suicide Squad theater experience story.
That's up there for me. Like that's one of them I'm considering for that answer.
Because the whole story was we bought tickets for it twice because we were off like a great summer of comic book movies. So we're like,
real quick, deal.
Yes,
Brother Lomas.
Yes.
Well, you'll be on in September.
Yes, please, thank you. No, but Batman vs Superman was like the movie where I was like, this is a bad movie. Like I can actually tell the editing is bad. Like this is bad. That this, that, the other thing is bad. But anyways, go back to what you were talking about.
I don't know how to judge film editing.
Can
you tell us about film editing? Nerd Chronic.
We have the right person.
Yeah. I mean, film editing is usually like the thing about editing in general is for film editing specifically, you're supposed to be like unnoticed. Like the film is supposed to flow in a way where like you don't feel like the editing. That's the point. It's like that quote from Futurama. When you do things right, people won't think you've done anything at all. Like that thing. And so when you notice something, like kind of like that seems abnormal, that's when like the editor has probably failed, or they probably had their hands tied to like in a certain way to like accommodate some things. Like the also the like conceit about editing, which people sometimes don't really understand, is that editors had to work with what they're given, and that's why they go back, films, they do like reshoots and retakes and like pickups and stuff like that to like make sure like they have all the tools they need to make the film work smoothly. But sometimes it can't happen, so like the editor have their hands tied to work with what they have, and that leads to like some like kind of janky stuff. So particularly for like action movies are like a good example of like where editing like needs to be sustained like in a way where like you really don't notice it, otherwise it will like stick out and the action falters, like the direction falters, like just the overall film falters. And like when you look at an action movie, like the easiest thing to do, the easiest mistake is to like cut too much, like to have too much editing. Like, so like when someone has like a punch, like you cut to like their fist like to the face and then back to the wide and then stuff like that within the course like like a second and a half, and like there's like yeah exactly every like hit and move has to have like a different cut, different angle and stuff, and that's not really conducive to like like fun action, like really. And like I think some movies now have like really picked up on that, like the John Wick series has a lot of like like still action that like just sits on the screen as it happens, which is really fun. And like actually why I was not like a big fan of the action in John Wick 2, because I felt like they didn't get it like as well as they did in the first film, and they kind of fixed it a little bit for the third film. There's a lot of action that happened like either off screen or like like in the edit as like the cut happened, and it just didn't feel as like smooth or like as like just cool as like the first one. And a good one though is like you can for me, another example is Rogue One. Like Rogue One is not my favorite Star Wars film, but there's like scenes in it particularly that have like these moments of like kind of weird editing, because I think they are obviously like were cutting around like certain lines of dialogue and like scenes that were being like kind of adjusted to fit like the new reshoots that they had made for the movie. So particularly in the opening where Jyn is saying goodbye to her mom, like that part where she's giving her like her bag and like little stormtrooper stuff and everything.
Yeah, I do
you can watch that scene, and like there's like so many cuts of like back and forth between them where it's like Jyn, here, cut, take this, cut, thanks, here, cut, necklace, cut, take this, cut.
Like, the timing's not like 100% on that too.
Yeah, and like for a moment like that, when like you're supposed to have, it's supposed to be this like a goodbye between them, it's supposed to be like a very poignant moment to like set up like kind of her whole like characterization for the rest of the film. This kind of like traumatizing event where she had to like be like hidden by her mother and she'll never see her again for the rest of her life. Like that I feel needs like a little to be slowed down a bit. It needs to be slowed down and have like a little more weight to it, as opposed to like these quick cuts of like get here, get that. It's not supposed to be as like actiony and like picked up. But I think probably if I had to guess through like the test screenings and like some of the notes that they had from the studio, they had to get to like the present day events like quicker.
Right.
Yeah.
So actually kind of what I was asking was like film editing, how does it work?
Do you mean like
we've gotta
that was more like that's my but why male models?
Yeah.
We've got a great question by Brother Lomas, and I believe he's playing 4D chess, because I think most would interpret this as, what's the most frustrating movie for you to watch as an editor? But he put an I. I think
So I am gonna
Brother Lomas is alluding.
Like,
yeah, I think he's alluding to his very voluptuous career as an editor, as seen by the short film he released a week or two ago about the finger slicer, the fingers getting cut off. That's something we should watch on the show and live
I would
react
watch that
to
over and over, by the way.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, so Eric, what is the most frustrating movie for you to watch as an editor?
And why is it a Bourne film?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Bourne films, I mean, it's a good example of like what I was talking about with the over editing. And not particularly like, the usage like shaky cam.
It's not the first one, it's the second two.
Yeah.
The first one's not bad. It's the second two when it comes to that. 100%.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like there was an example recently I was thinking of like that has like just like this editing that I could see was just poorly done. It's escaping me at the moment. Like what the particular movie is. It would happen this like past year or two. That I recently just saw it. Oh, okay. So this isn't like the worst, but like this is something that I noticed particularly in a movie, which was Birds of Prey. Like, and I love Birds of Prey.
Right.
Like, I think it is probably like my top 3 like DC EU films. Like, I for me personally, I think like the characters are fun. I think
Same.
like the tone of it is like fun. But I do feel that in the editing, particularly, and then direction, like it felt like the first go of like a first time director, which it was. It was the first time director that had her hands on it, and there were moments in it where I kind of felt like you could tighten this up like just like a tiny bit, like these certain like beats and moments and cuts. One in particular I can remember is when Harley. When they're going to get ready to like gear up for like the final like standoff at the laugh house that they're in, the fun house, and she says like, "Don't worry, I got like my stuff here," and she opens it, and like there's a beat of like she opens it, and we're still stuck on that shot of like her like kind of presenting the open closet, and like everyone's faces like kind of drop, and to me the beat lasts just like a half second too long, where like the comedic hit doesn't land like as like sharp as it should be, where naturally you should open that, have like a very quick beat of like them like having like quick expressions like something is amiss, and then cut to the empty like bookcase.
I'd rather say like you can either go a little bit longer to the point where it makes you anxious, or you do it like that half beat shorter and it hits right at the right appropriate time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It depends on the way it's structured, and also like the tone of the scene. Because like the music does the thing where it crescendos into the punchline. And so when the music crescendos and then drops, and then like the edit is still lingering after the drop, then something feels wrong, because you feel like we're supposed to move on from this. Like the moment of understanding for the audience has already passed. So we should catch up to like what they're seeing already. And in a movie that's already filled with like so many jokes, you can kind of guess what the joke is, that the closet is empty, and so we need to like kind of be there with them already.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what the other one was, but if it comes to me, I'll mention it.
Yeah, editing, like, so my whole family, we shot during our last vacation a entire like home movie that was a sequel to a home movie that was performed in 1988, many years before I was born. And my brother and I are the ones editing it. 88. I was born in 96, so 8 years.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we're editing like the actual movie, and like it's so crazy how like the slightest, like my brother will move. My brother's the one on the computer, and I'm the one like watching, and we'll move it slightly, and I'm like, you know what? Trim a half second, and I think the moment will be a lot funnier if you just cut off that like little half second. And it's so crazy how that is.
That's how it goes sometimes, especially when like you get into things with like particular rhythms. For like the promos, is a good example for the Schmodown, and like these other videos I used to do for fun. I would just do like these kind of like movie montage stuff with music and everything. And there are moments in the promos and those other videos where I would like kind of fuss over like the difference between 2 frames for like half an hour. Like 2 frames like to the left with the music to the right, with like 2 frames like both back, both front, like on top of each other, like different like kind of combinations of like how it all works together, because when it's off, like it just naturally, for me at least, it feels off. And like when it doesn't, it disrupts the flow of like what needs to be seen and felt at the moment. The match between Smets and Mike at Spectacular, the promo for that, like the part where Mike wins in the promo and he like lifts the from Rachel, and he lifts the belt, and the music builds towards it. That took me like 30 to 40 minutes to like nail, because that was just like me really trying to time out like the motion of like the slow building music with his motion, and like Christian's announcement, and like the shots that I had available to me. And so like those things like that, it just takes me a long time to like nail if it's really, really important. Like and I can feel that there's like a perfect combination there.
Holy shit,
man!
Like I kind of just want the Eric commentaries on Schmodown editing now on these scenes. Like
that should be like the Patreon exclusives.
Yeah.
Like how this went.
oh, wow.
Yeah, I've been wanting to do that for a while. Actually, it was an ambition I had last year, and just like everything got so crazy, I didn't have time to do it. But yeah, I would like to do dissections of like the promos that I've done. For like why is it this shot? Like why does this shot work here? Or what is the narrative like a build? With these particular like sections, things like that. Because I put a lot of thought into like the way these things build, and like there's a lot of information to convey in the course of like 3 to 4 minutes, and so making sure all that is like connected with you subconsciously like right away is like very important.
That's something a lot of people would be very, very interested to see, actually.
Yeah.
I think that's a bonus feature that is untapped. Harloff, if you happen to be watching this, that's something you should tap into.
And Christian Harloff, if you've ever seen the show before, I am so sorry. Not pretty nice.
So I have a question for Eric.
Yeah.
So I know this for a fact. You have never been on a plane.
I have not. That's correct.
So what would you like to be your first flight? Like give me like a specific scenario, like for your ideal first time to be on a plane.
You mean on the plane or the destination that I'm going to?
Destination, both, but the destination, and then
I mean, the ideal scenario is that we don't crash. Like that's like my ideal scenario of like being on a plane for the first time.
That happens over half the time.
Yeah, I know. So that's I'm hoping I'll be the other 50% on that. But as far as the destination goes, I feel like I might have an opportunity this year if we go in New York. Making that my first flight out for like my first away show for the Schmodown. And also Drew's family lives out near New York, so like that'd be a good chance to go meet her mother and sister for the first time. And it's something that I definitely want to do. I should do eventually in my life. It's just like I haven't had like a reason or opportunity to fly. Like not that it isn't necessarily that I am like too scared to fly. Like I definitely have jitters about it now because it's been so long. But the logic side of me like knows like people fly, like millions upon millions of people fly every day and like nothing happens. So I had to put that on my mind that anything would happen to me if I go flying once.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the movie Bounce with Ben Affleck and Gwyneth Paltrow?
I've not seen Bounce.
Okay, don't worry about it. And don't look into that movie at all whatsoever.
Okay.
Ever.
I got a question for Eric. So how much of the Schmodown? So this is more of a me like before I was in on this kind of stuff. My brain wondering, but like, are you essentially putting together the final you put together the final cut, submit it to Christian, he uploads it to YouTube, kind of a thing
for the matches?
Yeah, for the matches. Just in general.
The matches, so in 2020, last year, like, yes, I was doing literally like everything, like top promos, every match, top to bottom. This year, we have spread out the workload to a couple different people. We have Aaron Wilhelm, the previous editor, who came back to help us out with the new workload that we have, as well as Abby Friel.
So many matches.
Yeah, Abby Friel is now editing for us. Yeah, Abby Friel is.
Abby is too? That's cool. I didn't know that.
She's been editing for us for a little while now, and she's doing a great job.
We love Abby.
Yeah. And also Ryan Barry, who we recently hired on to help with that. And so like we've been spreading out like the matches between everyone. The last one I did was the Ethan Irwin Damrell match for the live setting, just because I really wanted to like get my hands on that and like kind of finesse like what the live matches are going to look like again, and make sure it flows properly, especially for something that it's not a big secret. It's not like too behind the scenes, but the wheel round in particular is like in person very slow and cumbersome because we have to move everyone out of the way to get the wheel in front and then like spin it, get it, reset it, put it back, get the podiums back, do it again for the second person, so on and so on for the betting round, do it again.
Smoother.
I've been to live events. I know what it's like.
Yes.
So yeah, I understand.
So if you watch it, the cut now, I'm pretty proud that I was able to like get the beats right, so like it doesn't feel like there's any downtime like getting that thing out.
And it is the fact that I mean Wilhelm and into you and there's so much of this YouTube production that felt like a TV production, and things like you don't have somebody dragging out the wheel and dragging it back, and like it's the small touches, but like everything you guys do is amazing, but it's just those little things that brought up, you notice it.
Yeah, it's those things like you always try to, like, those are the pitfalls that you try to avoid in editing. Just again, if you notice it, then like you've done your job wrong, and like you should not notice those like blemishes, or those, you shouldn't see the creases between the cuts. But now I have like taken a kind of more of a step back from like the overall editing for the matches, because we have like now these like new plans that we're doing for like promotion materials for the show to kind of expand the audience. Now that we're going to have like finally new live footage to promote ourselves with, and that was the thing with like the digital stuff. Even though it was great to have for the time being, it really wasn't what the show should have.
What the show?
Yeah, what the show? Yeah. Exactly.
Go on, though.
Yeah, it's not we wanted the show to be billed as, like, to advertise it so heavily as like digital matches. It's great to have a new audience, and we're so happy that people found the show over the pandemic. But we really want the show to be portrayed as like a live production, like wrestling and UFC, WWE, like sports. Like that is the vibe that we want to give out to people, and we want people to understand that. So now that we have the Cantina matches down, and we're getting some more done, and then we have the New York event and Spectacular coming our way. Fingers crossed nothing changes. That we'll be able to promote the show in a way that we wanted to really expand, to find a new audience and get people really invested in what it was meant to be.
Well, I don't know, like when Collision happened and I got to see in-person matches again, I was somebody who was fine with digital matches. Like I would call Ace's tournament run in Star Wars is my favorite story in Schmodown history, and it's digital, up through the final, and like seeing what the production looked like and what this could really be. Like this looked better with Collision. When
you saw Shazam versus Corruption, you saw what the show is supposed to be.
What the show?
But what Schmodown is supposed to be, I think. Shazam versus Corruption was the highest epitome of what Schmodown can and should be.
Yeah.
That's because of William Bibbiani throwing confetti. Still gets me. It's so good.
Yeah. But I agree though. There was a ton of stuff that came out of the digital era that was fantastic. I mean, we like Ace's run, and I keep saying this elsewhere, is that the biggest impact that will have on the show moving forward is that we have now like Spirit Bombs like accumulated like a bunch of new talent like over the digital era that we didn't have before we left the studio.
Never would have found them.
Like Jacob Whitnaven.
Yeah, like Jacob Whitnaven.
No, like Paige though.
He'll be back. He'll be back.
We have Paige. We have Adam Collins, Marisol McKee, like all these people who got a chance to be in this thing and now have like really shown like that they can be superstars in this.
Belong.
And they belong here. And so when we go back to live matches, live settings for like live shows, and people are going to get to see like all these new people that didn't exist in the show before. Like, people came out, we would see, have dedicated fans that would come out to like the Atlanta show, the Orlando show, like the, LA shows. And so we would have them there and they would see, like Ben Bateman, like the usual, big fan favorites that they got to see. And it was always nice to catch up and like see each other again. But now once you go to the next live show we have, we're going to potentially have like a whole new slew of people that you never got to meet before. That's going to be just like fun to see the experience with.
And it was so cool seeing, because like I was like, oh, Amaru will be playing the veteran Saul, and it's like, no, wait, Saul is actually also hadn't done a real event before. He was also only digital. So it's so cool. Like seeing both of them, it was their first time, even though Saul was a sophomore. So
It's and that's gonna be the thing, man. Like, and I saw as like a hardworking player. Like, it sucks that day didn't go his way, but
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be a learning curve for anyone at some point to like get up in front of a stage on the lights. Like everyone talks about like the stage lights being like the thing that kind of gets in your head. Like, to me, that's not the thing that gets into people's heads when they're up on stage. It is the audience. Like, when you like miss a question and like your opponent gets it, you hear that like ooh, like that stuff, or like the like that stuff, like those things. Like, that's the stuff that you notice, like you feel like right away once you're up on that stage. And like I remember Smets talked about it when he got his infamous "Don't tell Peter" moment, or "Don't tell Harry" moment. He answered it, and you can hear it a little bit in the match edit. But yeah, if you're in that room, you can feel just like the air gets sucked out of that room, like immediately. Where it's like, "Don't tell Harry" and "Don't tell Peter," and it's just like everyone, you just feel it. And he knew immediately that he got it wrong. He couldn't compute what he had got wrong. He just knew from the audience that he messed up.
And he felt like I remember him talking about, like, he felt like he said the right thing.
Yeah.
And like he totally Ron Burgundy like telepromptered himself.
Yeah.
In a way where like he didn't realize he said "fuck you, San Diego."
Yeah.
And then he realized from reaction.
Yeah.
Like, that's something that
that's the stuff that can happen in like a live setting. Just like you feel it. You feel the lights, you feel the audience, you feel the eyes on you, more so than a computer camera. It's more so than just being recorded with 3 other people on a stream with you. Even if it's just like the Schmodown crew, that's still like 10 to 15 people watching at a time for any taping.
Well, and like Paulo Yama, like, we would not have had his face turn, which I love Paulo Yama as a face, if it weren't for that live event where the lights were a lot for him. So it's really great how it shapes the sport with the environment involved. So
I can speak to that because to the whole like star-studded like stuff, because like I remember the first time I ran in at Star Wars Celebration 2019. I ran into Mark Ellis and Ken Knapsack, and I was like, my just face melted. I was like, but then like my first time on Schmobates, Ben Bateman was like in the back and stuff. And so I met like Ben like right away, like, and Ben is like, it was my favorite player. So like meeting him, it was like, if it was in real life, it would have been much different, because it was virtual. It was like, all right. But then like doing all the stuff, the promos and stuff for Jacob, meeting and talking to Christian, it was just like his voice in my head, like his voice is always in my head, like I'm listening to a podcast. It wasn't like I was actually sitting there talking with him, face to face. So it's like, so different, the virtual versus the live.
Yeah, totally. It's it's a learning curve. Like, once you're in front of like the people, especially the people that if you're privileged enough to like be like a part of like this community, and to be like kind of like in cahoots with like the people after a while. Because speaking for myself, I also started this thing. I was like just a fan. Like, I'm very grateful that I am in the position that I am now. Because I was just this like guy who went out to the first live show by myself and just like sat in the audience by myself. I literally didn't know anyone, and I just like wanted to watch like this fun trivia show that I discovered like by myself. And that's where I met Dwayne Burke. I met like a few other people in that show, and I just remember like talking to like Roka and JT after the show, in the fan like area, for like the VIP fans, and just getting that like jolt of like energy that I just want to like learn more about these people and learn more about this world, and that's what kind of motivated me to like do what I did, which was like start making like my own fan promos that eventually got noticed by Christian. And so I'm again very grateful. I'm proud of like the work that I've done to like get my name out there, but I'm also very grateful that Christian gave me that chance, and that people have been so receptive to like me as like just the editor, like, because like it's not a common thing for the editor of something to be like part of like a known part of the show.
But you deserve it.
You do. I don't want to like bring gravity to the situation, but there are 7 people watching, so But you no, like that story is like, it's super heartwarming.
So
man.
cool.
And it's exemplary of this community and of yourself. So
I can say this. I've gotten to know a number of people from the community over the time, competitors, fans, whatever. I have never once heard anyone have even the most slight negative comment about you, Eric.
No,
wait until the post show.
Everybody has said nothing but positive responses to you, and you have been, for so many people, such a positive beacon in this community, and that's awesome. And I respect that, and I wanted to salute you for that. So,
thank you. It's an action guys salute. Yeah.
Yes.
Guys. Yeah, and I'm again, that's like me kind of like giving back to like what the show has like done for me. It's just this like really
what the show?
Thing. Yeah. Like he popped in for that. Yeah, giving back to the show because like again, like I found this show at like a kind of like this like kind of crossroads moment in my life where like I was really just like trying to figure out like I wanted to do something more with like my time and like energy, and I dived into this thing on a whim, and because Christian was so gracious to give me like a chance to like put my name into it, and because the community itself was like so gracious to like accept me, like between like PJ being such a great guy too, like being like putting on these fan meetups of people like in LA before a show so people can meet each other,
right.
And to meet like the other fans who which everyone wants to do in this thing is just like be friends, and like that's like a super special thing that I recognize because you don't get that in like a lot of sports communities.
No.
Like even if like you're a fan of like a different faction, like a different player, like that's not really what defines like your relationship with like the person like on the floor with you, like watching the show. Like everyone is like really just excited to be there and to support the whole thing in general.
And so like genuinely, like from a Schmodown perspective, like I'm somebody who's been to quite a few live shows, but like I know a lot of people haven't. When you go to a live show at Schmodown, especially if you hang out and get to like interact with people afterwards, everybody is there just to embrace everyone, which is for the there might be some rivalries from competitors or something like that, but for the most part, a Schmodown live event is all about love.
Yeah.
All together, it's all about love. And, this is something, Eric, I think everyone here knows this, but like I met Jake Yacovetta after a live event, and he wound up a couple of years later being a groomsman in my wedding.
Yes.
So that right there, I think epitomizes, what this community means to people,
Yeah, and I mean that's how I started with like all this too. Like I was just like a fan of the show, and then now I am very grateful to call like the competitors like my friends and to like to speak to them on a personal basis, like from time to time. And when you talk about the live shows and how everyone's there just to love the show and to support it, like that's what like motivates me to like do like the work that I do, is because like the love that people have for the show, like particularly for this like show. People have asked me before, like if I ever got an opportunity to be like a feature film editor or to edit for like like a big budget blockbuster or something, if it were like Quentin Tarantino or like Christopher Nolan, like ask me like tomorrow, like do you want to do this thing? Like,
ooh,
sure,
you don't know our rules concerning Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, like someone who is of acclaim, like regardless, like personal preference, I would, I might have to consider it because it's like it would be a random out of the blue thing. But my ambition, my personal goal is like not to like leave this space to like pursue something bigger, because to me like this is like a very like fulfilling like role, in the sense that I before I worked in this, I worked for a hologram studio, so we made like hologram projection shows where that would go out to like like different venues like Vegas and like
Tupac, or
yes, like the Tupac thing. Yes, yeah, it was that same company. Wow. Yes. And so like it was stuff like that. So we like there were like we're working on that stuff, and that's like it paid well, and it was like, it's nice to work on stuff that people saw, but those type of shows, like, they get put out in like Las Vegas. You can see like, like a Billie Holiday hologram in Las Vegas, like a show, and that's fun to see. But people don't go to Las Vegas to go see that thing. They see that thing while they are in Las Vegas.
Right.
Whereas with the Schmodown, like, I really love working for something that people like save money for and like fly out for and like spend time to go see, like, and take time with their personal lives because they love it so much. Like, that's what I like being part of. I don't want to be part of like a production that people go pay because like it's something to see, one night,
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like, Schmodown became something that I put on YouTube to like fall asleep to, and then I like couldn't fall asleep to it anymore because I stayed awake.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do have to ask, if you were to do like a hybrid business, right? What Schmodown competitor, past or present, would you have play Tupac Shakur in a match as a hologram?
So, like, they're both holograms, or
no? Like, Tupac is the hologram playing one competitor.
Yeah, Tupac is playing movie trivia.
Yeah, against a competitor.
Okay,
in the Schmodown.
It's a good
Robert
question.
Meyer Burnett.
I'm trying to think someone who's like, musically inclined, or musically inclined, like Schmodown people, which is like, I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think of many. I'm trying to think of
a few, but not many.
Yeah.
Brianne Chandler would be a great one.
Is she? I mean, I know she's very musically talented, but I'm trying to think of someone who's like, oh, you know what? I'll choose Alex Marzonia.
I'll play him.
I was to say Alex or Chance. Chance actually knows a lot of music.
Yeah.
Wait, is Chance is musically inclined?
Like, not like playing wise.
Well, you don't want somebody that'll steamroll Tupac. You want a good match. That's why I said Robert Meyer.
Tom Degino.
Yeah,
if
so
Chance
is a good match.
If Chance has been Chance the rapper this entire time, I swear to God, I will learn pop culture.
Or brother Lomas.
Yeah.
Oh shit! You could do an entire like an exorcism kind of like angle with Tupac.
And Tupac will know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
The
now I want to
that I.
Yeah.
All right. So,
although I actually, off the top of my head now, I might say Clee Wiggins, just because I remember when I first met her, we were figuring out like music tracks for her, and she had like she said she wanted like kind of like a Tupac, like hip hop type of vibe to it. So I get that kind of matches up with that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Clee the Pimp Wiggins.
Yeah.
Yes, this is a Clee Wiggins positive channel right here.
Yeah.
She is amazing.
Yeah.
Clee Wiggins, please reach out to us. Please.
Yeah,
I would love to have you as a guest.
Yeah.
So so we're at about we're approaching an hour and 15. So let's wrap things up tonight. So Eric, man, thank you so much for joining us. This has been one of my favorite episodes. I'm not lying at all when I say that. This has been fantastic talking to you. So why don't you tell us what you got going on now, aside from Schmodown? We all know about Schmodown, but tell us about your other projects.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it coming on and just chatting. It's fun to talk with people once in a while on my night off, as you guys say. No, but I am in the process, like I said, with Video Drew to start moving stuff over to our new kind of streaming media room soon. So we'll be doing some fun stuff there, including we have like a fun, we're going to start doing some podcast stuff just to put on her Patreon and also on her YouTube channel, just like some game stuff that we have in mind, and also like maybe do some game nights in general for some like board games I want to teach her. And we do every Monday and Thursday our show, the Video Chronic Pop Culture Quiz, which you guys have been a part of. All three of you, and so it's a Monday and Thursday, like around 8 p.m. This Thursday, we are not going to have a show. We're going to try and debut another episode of like the podcast stuff that we're doing, and then Monday, this coming Monday, we have Craig the Barbarian versus Ethan Irwin in Con Air.
Oh, can I come?
In a Con Air. It is a duo. They requested a versus one-on-one match between the two of them.
Show up with Nicolas
I will
Cage
be in the chat.
You'll
Stream
be in the
Labs.
chat,
Yeah. Nicolas
Yeah.
Cage will be in
I
the
will
Stream
be in the
Labs.
chat
This
because
is
like
personal rivalry that they
Oh,
had
wow.
between each other. So like they want to have that hash
That's
out.
gonna be fun.
that is
actually.
going to be
Yeah.
amazing.
And then the following Thursday, we do not have a quiz on that day either. I will be out of town with Drew that weekend. And then the following Monday after that, we're doing the Titanic with our friend Vernon and Vanessa and Robert from Late to the Party, and also Marisol McKee.
Nice.
Yeah. And then
So-
Thursday after that, we are then doing Men in Tights with Jesse Swift versus his wife or fiance Lauren.
Can I come?
Well, yes, for September 4th. That might,
Can we
might
get
be
a-
wife at that point.
Sorry, say again. People were
It might be
talking.
wife at that point. September
Yeah.
4th is their wedding.
Yeah,
night.
right.
Yeah, it's gonna be just before the wedding, so yeah. So
Just
hopefully
before,
it doesn't
okay.
go too.
Oh, nice.
Hopefully it's not too
Well,
sour. Doesn't
We need
sour
to get
the
what would
Also
be a
for their
good,
wedding.
Yeah.
we need like a Sky High trivia versus me and Jacob or something like that. Like
Oh yeah.
or
Sky
or
High.
Jacob versus Jesse. So would be something they'd. Did anyone? I didn't watch the match.
Don't
So
worry
I'm sorry
about
for
it.
those that had to
Don't
live
worry,
it.
you didn't miss much.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
That was the easiest.
Would there be a good rival?
Eric ever had.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
So with that, this is what the show. Justin, Mike, do you guys have stuff to plug?
Well, once again, like I said, you can hit up the Streamlabs that we have pinned in right now, or if you check my comments for the GoFundMe, my old neighbor Zach has had a couple of brain surgeries. He's actually about to have his third. I found this out during this stream, but one way or the other. Any and all donations, whether you do it through Streamlabs to us or through the GoFundMe that's listed in the link, is just like super appreciated, because there's a long recovery road associated with this. Unfortunately, he had a brain tumor and is going to his third surgery. So aside from that, anyone who can help with that, thank you so much. But we're here on What the Show, and next week we've got PJ Campbell, and we're gonna have a lot of fun with that. But so seriously though, anyone who can donate, please do, whether it be to our Streamlabs or to the GoFundMe link. It would be wonderful to help Zach and his family. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Justin?
Yeah. No. Do that for sure.
Absolutely.
I don't have much. If you want to see my thoughts on Suicide Squad, you can check out Bobby G's interview of me.
Oh wait,
The Suicide
Bobby G.
Squad.
Bobby G's awesome. Bobby G is awesome.
Bobby G's great. Yeah.
Bobby G
It's
is
so
awesome.
cool. But other than that, I am so busy at work that I will not have any guitar projects, but I'm doing a wedding. So I will not be at Jesse Swift's stream because I'm doing a wedding that night, and I'm right now preparing. I got a 15. We're doing I met with the bride today. It's a coworker. It's her second wedding, so they're not like going crazy out like for it. But she's like, yeah, so like 3 o'clock, like for 4 o'clock we get back from pictures, and like yeah, we're like ready, and I'm like okay. So we got like 8 hours to fill of like music, dancing. I'm like, what do you want? But like, I'm like, you know what? Let's do a 5 o'clock hour. I will just play 80s songs on the guitar for an hour in the background. Cocktail hour for like 80s guitar. So I'm working on that right now. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be busy, but hopefully I'll be able to translate that into some live shows in the future. But it's gonna be a good time.
All right. That sounds awesome. So we have had on I'm AJ. We've had Justin and Mike. We are co-hosts of this show. We had on Nerd Chronic. I'm so thankful that you came on with us, Eric. It's been a great night.
Genuinely one of my favorite guests ever.
And before we sign off, real quick, I'm going to mention that by the end of this year, I will match the donations to Mike's friend Zach. I will match those donations personally from my wallet for every dollar that we raise for this GoFundMe by the end of the year. We're going to help this guy out. We're going to do some awesome stuff. We have $25 for him tonight. I'm going to match every dollar by the end of the year that we raise here. Let's make this a thing. Let's make this happen. This has been What the Show. This has been one of my favorite episodes. I love you all. We love you all. Good night.